Welcome to KSJ-Bridging the Gap. This is Sarah. The annual two sessions of the Chinese Communist Party (CCP) has always been the focus of attention from the outer world. The two sessions refer to the gathering of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference (CPPCC) and the National People's Congress (NPC), which is usually considered a window on the communist regime's priorities and plans for the coming year. Even though the two sessions have always been regarded as a vase meeting, at least some political signals can be seen. During the opening ceremony, Xi Jinping's teacups and the staff who served him tea took the spotlight out of expectation. Xi is dubbed the single authority in China because he is the General Secretary of the CCP, Chairman of the Central Military Commission, and the President of the People's Republic of China. In addition to the three titles above, he has over a dozen other official titles. The Economist magazine once called him Chairman of Everything. However, all the titles he bestowed on himself have not earned him the real authority. He has often been called the chief accelerator, especially in recent years, because he's making the CCP the global public enemy #1 and thereby accelerating its demise. This time, the two teacups in front of him have sparked lots of speculations about the state of the country's politics. The arrangement that Xi had two cups in front of him at the meetings, while all other officials, including Premier Li Keqiang, had only one cup each, and that a male staffer was dedicated to serving him tea, was seen to be symbolic, reflecting the superior and unchallenged status of Xi as a single authority. There are other comments about Xi's two teacups, of course. Some commentators believe that Xi Jinping may have some health problems, and one of the teacups was used for medicine. Others figured that it could be some kind of special security arrangement to prevent him from being poisoned. Well, that's quite possible because the high-level power struggle has reached the point of life and death for quite some time. During the first few years since his inauguration, Xi launched high-profile anti-corruption campaigns against his political foes as a tool to consolidate his power. He cracked down on both tigers and flyers, powerful leaders and low-level officials. Hundreds of thousands of government and party officials at both national and regional levels were placed under investigation, detained, or punished for corruption. In fact, Xi's fight against corruption made him enormously popular among the Chinese people in the first few years. However, his enthusiasm to root out corrupt officials isn't based on his own rectitude. Rather, it rests on his determination to strengthen his personal power and that of the party he leads. If Xi was serious about rooting out corruption, he should have brought previous party secretary Jiang Zemin and his right-hand man Zheng Qinghong into justice, because the two and their families are the core of corruption in China. However, he came to some kind of agreement with the two in order to strengthen his power. The 19th National Congress in 2017 left Xi Jinping with more power than any other CCP leader after Mao Zedong. He has since gone on to become one of the most dominant rulers in post-war Chinese history. Xi is becoming the new Mao. He gives top priority to strengthening the party by rooting out dissent in China. He has had Xi Jinping thought written into the guiding ideology of the CCP and removed his own presidential term limits. Xi said that China should not seek to copy Western ideology or its capitalist system. After implementing a series of Cultural Revolution-style far-left policies, freedom of expression and freedom of the press have been completely wiped out inside China. Political tensions are rising among the top officials in the Politburo Standing Committee and the second-generation right. Xi wants to be not only the single authority in China, but also the single authority in the world. Abandoning Deng Xiaoping's hide-and-bind political policy, Xi Jinping started to chase his dreams of world domination. The party mouthpieces started to boast about the rise of the big country as China. Following that, Xi triggered a bitter struggle with the United States on a host of issues, from trade and technology to ideology, human rights, and the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, he makes China the enemy of the whole world after enforcing the Hong Kong National Security Law, which effectively killed one of the most vibrant and prosperous economies in the world, and the goods that had been laying golden eggs for China. Chinese economy fundamentally shifted backward. and this has triggered more conflicts with the former CCP leader Jiang Zemin's family. Jiang built a faction within the CCP centered in Shanghai, also called the Shanghai Clique, which had control in Hong Kong. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal in February, Boyue Capital, a fund company owned by Jiang's family, is moving its business from Hong Kong to Singapore and Shanghai to protect its wealth from being taken away by Xi's administration. Jiang's faction still controls power in Shanghai and some other regions in China and is the main rival of Xi within the party. Therefore, it is not hard to imagine that Xi is facing big challenges from the party. His safety has been a matter of much concern. Yet, disregarding the political struggle and internal crisis after the hard-hitting effect of economic ideology in Hong Kong, the two sessions this year involved Hong Kong issues. In the report of Wang Yang, chairman of the CPPCC, the 12 characters used to define the CCP's Hong Kong policy, one country, two system, Hong Kong people governing Hong Kong, high degree of autonomy, were replaced with patriots governing Hong Kong. Of course, patriots here refer to those who love the communist regime. It is not surprising that the CCP is openly implementing its one country, one system policy after Biden administration came to power, because the CCP believes that under the new administration, the US will not take any real actions other than verbal condemnation. What attracted public attention is Premier Li Keqiang's report played a different tune. In his annual state work report made on March 5th, he did not mention patriots governing Hong Kong. Instead, he still said the central government will ensure the comprehensive and accurate implementation of the one country, two systems doctrine, with the Hong Kong people governing Hong Kong, and the city enjoying a high degree of autonomy. There is a common interpretation that Li Keqiang once again openly disagreed with Xi Jinping, which is a sign that the internal political struggle and conflicts of the CCP have reached a fever pitch. This is not the first time for Li to play different tunes. In his speech last year at the meeting of the National People's Congress, he disclosed that over 600 million Chinese people make less than 1,000 Chinese yuan a month, which is roughly $150. This is generally interpreted to be a direct affront to Xi's boast about the success of his poverty alleviation campaign. Li is supposed to be China's economic czar, but Xi's aggressive consolidation of power has left him with no room to function. But there is also interpretation that Li Keqiang's different tunes are more like a two-person show to fool the ordinary mass. Just before the two sessions, 47 pro-democracy Hong Kong people were accused of subversion of state power, and the two sessions may pass more reforms in Hong Kong's electoral system to ensure that the CCP has absolute power and control in Hong Kong. After Hong Kong, Taiwan becomes the next target of the CCP. It is Xi's dream to accomplish something in order to be the lifetime single authority with no objection from the party. Liberate Taiwan and Unify Taiwan have been the CCP's propaganda slogans over the past few decades. By means of this propaganda, the CCP has acted like a nationalist and a patriot. Therefore, to achieve national reunification becomes Xi's daydream. China's finance ministry said spending on national defense would rise 6.8% to nearly 1.36 trillion yuan, about $210.1 billion. Li Keqiang said the country would resolutely deter any separatist activity that seeks the independence of Taiwan while remaining committed to peaceful reunification with the region, which Beijing considers a breakaway province. Beijing has constantly increased its military harassment to Taiwan this year. There is a big threat that the CCP will launch a military operation to force reunification if Biden does not confront the CCP like the Trump administration. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet Yang Jiechi, the CCP's Director of Office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs, and the State Councilor Wang Yi on March 18th in Alaska. Although Blinken wrote on Twitter that a range of issues, including those with deep disagreements between the two countries, would be engaged in the meeting, to me, the Biden administration has fallen into the CCP's trap. The CCP is a master of lying. It lies to its own citizens about everything, from the Great Leap Forward to the pandemic. It deceives the whole world with lies. Its one belt, one road is indeed a one debt, one road for financially weak countries. Even President Trump was deceived by Xi Jinping when the CCP virus started in Wuhan last year. Xi told Trump that the virus had been under control. Presently, China is facing unprecedented crisis, with the whole world confronting its threat. China's political system is now more brittle and potentially unstable than at any time in the past. Throughout history, whenever the CCP encountered a crisis, it would demonstrate some traces of improvement, inciting the West to develop illusions. Without exception, the illusion was shattered time and again. A critical issue facing the United States is whether the confrontation with the CCP should be based on divergent ideologies, communist versus liberalism, or on interests. According to the CCP's mouthpieces, Western leaders should abandon discussion of values and alliances based on values and instead embrace the common values of humanity. In other words, to focus on economic cooperation and respect each other's political system. Unfortunately, Biden administration buys that and worries more about the lunch that might be eaten by China. Chinese people are suffering from the tyranny and the evil communist system. Under Xi's leadership, China has entered this more authoritarian period. Yet, a lot of Chinese people believe it is not a bad thing for Xi being the chief accelerator because he is speeding up the demise of the CCP, and many people believe that the CCP is doomed to collapse in a very short time, maybe this year, because Xi has many enemies waiting to pounce on him when the chances arise, including Jiang's faction as well as the second generation red and the elites in China. Let's wait and see. KSJ Bridging the Gap. See you next time.